Have you ever wanted to mow down hordes of enemies in Diablo 3, just charging through them with a propeller B-52 bomber of death? Well, you're in the right place, because the Monk POJ Tempest Rush build for Season 22, patch 2.6.10 is just for you. Well, in the footage here and later on in the video, in the push version of the build, you're gonna see it, right? You literally, for the speed version, you're just running through, plowing through everything. It's almost like a whirlwind barb, but you are, spinning your propeller round and round in circles, just laying waste to demons as you pass by them. This build's really easy to play, and you can play it in all facets of the game, like through bounties, through rifts, through pugs, solo Paragon. You can do almost everything with POJ, and it's only getting better this upcoming season, and we'll get into that later. But as you can see in the footage here, it's one of those chill and kill builds. I haven't been talking maybe like 15 seconds. I know it's an open map and I know it's an 80, right? But this is the 800 Paragon, less than 100 gem level speed version of the build. So this is what you would use your daily driver as you're, running your rifts, your bounties, low level gem ups and things like that. So you're looking at really fast, chill speed runs, similar to Whirlwind Barb, with tons of power. And then we'll get into the push build later, and we'll talk about all the mechanics of everything. But this is the preview, right? This is to whet your appetite to see what the build is even capable of. With Season 22, we have a lot of things that are different and a lot of things that are similar, and I'm definitely going to cover that for you today. All right, Blood, what exactly is new for Season 22 for POJ? It's been out for a few seasons now. Well, for one, POJ is your Hadrig gift for the season, for Season 22. So what an amazing starter set to get. POJ fixes all your resource issues, and it's a great starter set all around. I would do your best to just rush the set. This is going to be your speed farming set, like we said. Now, Wave of Light is technically faster, but this build is very close to Wave of Light, and you have a lot of the same benefits as Monk that you do have with Wave of Light. It's just Wave of Light has that little teeny bit of edge. But typically for speeds, I would gravitate toward this, as it's so much easier for me to read Twitch chat, or for you to watch Netflix or streams on your other monitor or whatever. You can easily multitask with this build, and yeah. In addition, we have a 4th slot in Kanai's Cube, and you're able to rock Slander Little Rogue with the push build, and we're gonna get into the build later and everything like that. But basically this season, it's Hadrig. You get to rock extra things because of the cube, Slander Little Rogue, or you can rock Shenlong weapons here. Really quick, these videos do take a long time to make, a lot of late nights. If you could do me a favor and just like the video, I'd much appreciate it. There'll be timestamps in the description, and in the timeline itself, there should be a chapter section. So when you're hovering over it, it should have little blocks for you to click on, so you can easily jump to sections during the season. Up next, we're gonna talk about the build power of the set. What can it exactly accomplish? Now, up to this point, I showed you the speed version of the build, and I'm going to show you the push version of the build coming up here soon. But there's a thing. So you can play POJ Tempest Rush in the super high A tier or in the super high S tier. Now, you might be like, Blood, why would I play an inferior build? Well, the version that I'm going to showcase in the video is the inferior version of the build. But it's so much nicer to play. There's no bugs. It runs buttery smooth, and it's my preferred way to play POJ. Having something in the high A tier is 140 GR plus capable. So most people don't even pass 120. So if you just want a chill build that can push and is tanky and stronger than ever been before, POJ has never been this strong before, unless you count Shenlong, right? 140 plus capable. Now, if you just have to have that top of the mountain, the cream of the crop, I'm going to include a POJ Shenlong version of the build in the description. It's from my boy Lexi. He did a really good job making a build back when we had the Cube season. Check his YouTube channel. He might do an updated version of the build of the guide for this upcoming season. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of other good creators as well that play Shenlong. I think Woody also plays Shenlong, and possibly Rax as well. My issue with Shenlong is a lot of the times during testing, 2, sometimes 3 times in a row, I would get full resource, and when you're at full resource, Shenlong is supposed to like deplete the resource, and then you get your big buff. So big, in fact, they even powered it up this season. Shenlong got buffed from 200 to 350%, which is insane. It's going to make the Shenlong version of the build 150 capable and the Slender Little Rogue version 140 plus capable. Now, again, the bugs just really trigger me. I'll be like setting up the perfect combo. We're going to get into the rotation later in the video and a GR demo, so don't worry about that. But basically, when the Shenlong is at maximum, all damage is increased by 350%, but you no longer passively regenerate spirit. So it's supposed to go all the way to the top and go down. So many times it'll work perfectly, and then so many times it won't work perfectly, and it just triggers me. Now with the bonus being so big, it's almost like the bad outweighs the good, but I'm gonna favor consistency in my build this season. So I just wanna point that out, that it's annoying, but you do get a fat payoff when it does work. Hopefully they bug fix it, patch it, that way we can use it more reliably. But I will talk about it since I did test it and I can feel the power. So to recap, build power. 800 Paragon, less than 100 gem levels. Slender Little Rogue can easily do a 110 solo. That would be your baseline, and you can probably go up to a 120 the better you get with the build. With Shenlong, you could probably baseline do a 115 to 120 really easily. So it has like that little bump, right? Like the little 5-tier bump at least. And at a high level, you're looking at 140 plus for Slender Little Rogue. And for Shenlong, at a high level, you have the 150 potential. So really insane build overall. Monk benefits so much for the seasonal theme. It basically jumps them up a whole tier. So that's really good to go from A tier to S tier just because of the seasonal theme. And that's how it was back in season 20 when we had the other cube theme, and it's going to continue here when we have the cube theme again. All right, let's talk about the rotation of the build. First things first, you want to keep up your buffs with Epiphany. You need 55% cooldown with the Zodiac Ring to have Perma Epiphany. So it's really easy to do with Monk as they have a cooldown passive. Use Mantra of Salvation Agility when you need more survivability. The active effect gives you more of that. Keep up Sweeping Winds. If you're in between packs and there's no enemies, Sweeping Winds will refresh itself. But if there's no enemies around, I always just recast it when I'm traveling in between packs, which in a Greater Rift, you almost never have that problem. So now that we know we keep up Sweeping Winds, Epiphany, and use Agility on cooldown, basically how you play the build is you build up stacks. Let's pretend this is the pack here. You kind of want to go on the outskirts of the pack and kind of tickle them a little bit like this. And you're building up your stacks. You can see the stacks here on screen. You know, I'm in the 40s, I'm in the 50s, right? So I'm just kind of building them up. And I'm on physical cycle, which means cold cycle's next. I'm going to use Serenity to go in so they can't mess with me, and then Blinding Flash and let go. And that's basically it. That's basically how you play POJ Tempest Rush. I'll do it again and maybe talk about the reasonings why we do it, remember? So keep up the buffs. And it's on physical cycle, so we're going to hit Serenity, go in. We're immune to all damage. We're going to Blinding Flash and let go. Okay. The Blinding Flash procs Caesar's Memento, which gives us the huge 800% damage increase on the build. Hitting with Tempest Rush while Sweeping Wind is active increases the size and damage of Sweeping Winds. So we have to use Tempest Rush and Sweeping Winds together as they are the set. This build wouldn't be as amazing and as interesting without Flurry. The fact that you're managing your stacks, you typically want to let go at 100 stacks always, but there's times where you know you can kill it with less than 100, and that would be a good time to practice, like get used to your build and your damage, and you have to make that decision when you're out in the field, right? Sometimes you just try to finish off a mob really quick and you see cold cycle and you just let it go and try to get a lucky crit. For the speed version of the build, we don't have to use Flurry. You can use it if it's a little bit more interesting for fun, but yeah, you don't need this whatsoever. You do enough damage just from the Whirlwind. So if it wasn't for Flurry, this basically would just be a pure Whirlwind build, and it would be too similar to Barb. So I'm so happy that Flurry is the meta for this playstyle, as it makes it a little bit more interesting. For the Shenlong version, you basically play the same way. The only thing is you have to play around your weapons. So as soon as you get to max spirit, I know this is not a Shenlong guide, but I can't help but to teach, okay? You get to max spirit, it starts to dwindle, and you have to kind of time it for cold cycle, basically. So here's me on a 110 with 800 Paragon, 10k main stat, less than 10k main stat, less than 100 gem levels. My Taeguk I think is only 25 in the video, as it takes a lot on the PTR. You have to level everything, right? And so you can see the gameplay. You just hold down your propeller of death, like a little B-52 bomber, like loading your weapons, waiting for cold cycle, sir, waiting for activation. You can see me looking down patiently. Here comes cold. I'm a blinding flash and let go, and then boom, right? I don't even know, that was 250 trillion, something like that. The Slender and Little Rogue provides armor and damage, attack speed. The Tempest Rush actually scales off of attack speed, believe it or not, in a weird way. Similar to how Rend on Barb doesn't crit, but it scales off crit. It's weird. Diablo's has a weird things, but anyway, you can kind of see that we're handling the 110 relatively easy, as a top A tier build should. This is a high A tier with like Frenzy Barb, I would say. So, and it's tankier than Frenzy Barb a little bit. Depends how you build it, but yeah, because you get a lot of life on hit. But, and it's, like I said, it's super cozy. And this is like the way I would probably farm Paragon, you know? Really easy to play, and you have a little bit of depth there with how you work on your positioning and you line up the mobs. Sometimes you have to kind of mob manipulate because you have a range pack and they don't follow you. So I will like break line of sight and try to get them close. And then when you get close, Juan Kim Lao pulls them in. And then during cold cycle, you do your little wombo combo there. And for the speed build, I like to use the Vengeful Wind because you get attack speed per stack of Sweeping Wind. So you have this like base movement speed. You're not relying on Echoing Fury if you don't want to. That's one of the things that I love. So you can see, even though, so doors, that's another thing. Yeah, if you have a door, then you're gonna drop your Tempest Rush. Or if you pause a lot, when you can't like pause it while holding on to Tempest Rush, so that might trigger you potentially. I know as a streamer, it's easy to play, but I can't pause it and look at other links because I'll lose my Tempest Rush. So I'd have to wait till I let go and then pause it and then go do something. You know what I mean? Because if you pause it, you're gonna lose your 50. I'm at 50, 60 stacks right now on the screen. You definitely lose it, you know. For speeds, you could even drop COE and go Stone of Jordan if you wanted to. But this is basically the gist of the gameplay. Real cozy indeed. And I hope you enjoy this build. Excuse me, losing my voice. This is honestly, when people tell me, Blood, yo, Blood, I'm new to the game or I'm returning to the game, what's fun? You know, this is up there for me in terms of fun. And I think you guys will really, really enjoy your time if you hadn't played Tempest Rush up to this point, as it's similar to Whirlwind Barb, but different enough to be interesting. All right, let's talk about gear and stats. This is for the POJ TR speed version of the build. Now, sometimes early season, you know, things are buggy, the websites don't work, so at least you can always refer to this video and you can see what I use, right? So that's for speed GRs, this is for T16. I like the hour span, you get that big pickup radius and you just spin to win, baby, basically. And like we talked about earlier, the Vengeful Wind is giving us more movement speed per stack, annihilation, all that. Here's the push build. I'm kind of letting in the video play. This is PTR footage that I took of all my armories since the armories are since the PTR is down right now. But yeah, man, sometimes these websites be getting overloaded and they don't work, and then everyone's stranded and I feel like crap, basically. So hopefully having YouTube, which is maybe more reliable, right, will be up and you guys can see visually what I do and you can see the fourth slot. So this is probably a way I'll do it going forward, just so you have that evidence. But yeah, I'm rambling. For final thoughts on POJ, I kind of touched upon how the build plays and how I feel about it and how I think you'll feel about it going forward. I just like the build. It's one of my favorites. I know I'm a big Diablo nerd, but this build's amazing. You do get your Siege's Memento bracers at level 1, so you can potentially get your endgame bracers right away and get to playing Tempest Rush early and, you know, practicing your wombo combo. Monk is a little harder to gear because of the weapons. Like, they have multiple weapons and then all their weapons have randomized modifiers on there, like affixes. So they have like damage ranges, right? So typically it's going to be tough. But this season you have Slender Little Rogue, which there is no secondary that you have to worry about. So the gearing is actually easier for once for Monk as opposed to being hard. Anyway, that's going to be all for me today. If you want to support further, there's tons of social media links. I'd appreciate a follow on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. If you want to support further, you can sub on Twitch. You can sub here on YouTube, on Patreon. There's tons of places. You can buy some merch. I got all kinds of stuff like that. But that's it, man. I'm going to get to working on stuff. Have a happy Halloween. I think this is going to post, tomorrow on Halloween. So everyone have a safe, happy Halloween, Hopefully you get not too many tricks and a lot of treats, and stay safe out there. Everyone should be wearing a mask this Halloween. So that should also help your safetyness, I suppose. This is Bloodshed, and I'm out of here. Peace.